Goodbye, Arie. What did you
I
think of
gave
this?
this one 100 points. This was so
Really,
good.
I gave it 9 out of 10, and there's one thing that I detracted points for. We'll talk about it later.
Yeah.
So
I hope nobody is always going to listen to us and go like, oh, these guys are so negative. They don't ever like something. But
we
this
like
one,
stuff. This was great.
we like stuff. This
Yeah.
is awesome.
Makes me want to
More
review
of this.
the look back as well, because I don't think we were doing the podcast yet when that came out.
Yeah, it was just a little off, but
yeah, because I really like.
We might have to reread that. It was also very good. Probably also 100 points.
I want to reread Chainsaw Man Part 1 and Look Back after reading this. I'm like, oh, before Chainsaw Man Part 2 comes out, because I noticed that both Goodbye Arie and Look Back are like very
Meta.
focused. Yeah, they're very meta. Both of them are about content creation, creating art, and they're also both about dealing with loss. But then they also are both presented with a slightly fantastical twist in them.
Yeah.
So Goodbye Arie, I guess we could summarize it. We'll just assume everybody who's listening has read it because it's so good.
In case anybody who's listening hasn't read it yet.
Our spoiler-free review is
you
just
must
go read it.
It's so good.
Yeah, it's so good you can't miss it. Go read it now. It's excellent. So the beginning of it is the main character is he a middle schooler or a high schooler?
Yeah, middle schooler.
A middle schooler. Then his mom is dying of some disease, and she asks
I'm gonna say it's cancer.
Yeah, probably cancer.
Did you know the cancer rate in Japan is the only one in the developed world that's still rising?
Really?
And apparently in all other developed nations, it's either stagnating or going down. And in Japan, it's the only one that's still rising because apparently they put a lot of banned substances in their food.
Oh, that's unexpected.
Yeah, because you always think, oh, the Japanese people live forever and they get so old. And
yeah, my other guess was gonna be,
is it
just because
very healthy?
My guess was gonna be, is it just because they get so old that their cancer rate is higher because people in the rest of the world are dying earlier of heart attacks before they can die of cancer?
I think
so
no.
Maybe the food thing, yeah. That's crazy.
As far as I understand it, that's not the case.
Oh gosh, I hope they do something about that.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah, but anyway, the mom has cancer, and she asks the son to film her, and she specifically requests to film up to her death. And he's like, I'm going to turn it into a movie. But then at the end, he can't bring himself to film his mom's death, and he runs away from the hospital.
I think the thing is, at first, he doesn't get told to turn it into a movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he also doesn't express the intention to make it into a movie.
At first
you just see all of the recordings he's made. And then at the final moment when he's supposed to film her last moments,
he runs away.
And then you see that all of these scenes are already the edited product that he's put together
for a movie. And he shows it
for
to
a
his
movie.
School.
And the finale is him running away from the hospital and the hospital exploding, which is a very indie Japanese cinema. If you've watched a little bit of Japanese cinema, which
I have,
I would say is always relatively bad.
There's some good movies.
No, but okay. And if you then take what the amateurs are making, then those are even worse. And some of those really bad ideas they come up with are like exactly like this.
Yeah.
So I mean, you can at very least tell that Fujimoto is extremely in tune with what Japanese cinema looks like. This is very realistic. But also realistic is how all of the classmates of the main character react to it because they hated it. They joke about it, but later on he asks everybody for their
The
individual
real
opinions, and
opinions, yeah.
everybody's like, "Well, that was really bad. Why
It
did you
was
do
really
that?
bad
That was so
taste, yeah.
disrespectful. It was so in such bad taste." And he doesn't like that. I mean, he's in the
It hurts him
wrong.
so much
He's
that
kind
he
of in the
decides he's
wrong.
gonna kill himself over it.
Yeah. Um, yeah.
Mhm.
But just when he was trying to kill himself, he meets
The
a
title character.
what's it called? Pixie
Yeah, Manic
man.
Pixie Dream Girl, Arie, shows
Yeah,
up. Yeah, to save him from killing himself.
and she kind of is one of those, right?
She is. She's definitely like that. She's so eccentric, and it's like, let's go watch movies together in this abandoned building, and with
Because she's the only one in school who liked the
yeah,
movie, and that's mainly because it resonated with her
right.
because she also has a sickness that she's
It's not
keeping
revealed yet,
from. It's not revealed yet,
but
but
yeah, she is also dying. So I'm like, I got to this point, and I was like, oh, it's one of those like, because I know that there's a lot of like young adult movies that have this theme of like, oh, a kid meets a new friend who turns out to be dying, or like has an accident and dies, and they have to deal with
yeah,
it. Like, there's a
that
lot
seems
of
very cliche.
coming of age movies and books that are like that. Like, ah, oh, it's one of those. But this it did it so well, and just the way that it went through with the twists of what, how much are we seeing that's supposed to be, I guess, canon to what's happening to them,
Yeah,
and how much is what's been edited for the movies that they talk about later, and just the way that they mentioned about how editing those recordings was a way for him to make sure that he only remembers the people in the ways that they would have wanted him to.
yeah.
I thought that was very, very touching as well.
Even
Yeah,
though,
it's
because that's the other big twist is
yeah,
that his mother was kind of horrible.
yes. So okay, so first off, Ari's like, let's make our own movie, or not. Let's make our own movie. She says, "Why don't you write another movie? Because I would like to see another movie for you from
By the
you."
way, that
After
panel
they've
just
watched,
now, I want to
uh-huh.
use that as a reaction image.
Yeah,
The
that's a
one
good
where she
one.
says, "This is how they do it in Hollywood. Don't you
Yeah.
trust Hollywood?"
That is a good
that
reaction panel.
that could work in so many
Hmm.
situations.
It could. But yeah, they watch a ton of movies together, and then she tells him to write another movie. Um,
All of the movie watching is kind of a training montage when you think about
it
it.
is, yeah, because they discuss what they liked and didn't like in movies.
And she explains that in order to become a good movie
Hmm.
director, you have to watch tons of movies in order to realize what's good and what's not good.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so they have a bit of a training montage in a way. But then the
You,
first
by the
twist.
way,
Uh huh.
you would also have to watch a lot of Rakugo in order to realize
You're
what's
right.
good Rakugo and what's not. And
Hmm.
suspiciously, we're not getting shown a lot of Rakugo.
Yeah, that's the problem. I think we mentioned that earlier. Is that
I just want to point it out
Akane
again.
Banashi could learn from Goodbye Eri. um,
Everybody could.
yes, and the first twist is when it comes out that the mom is not actually a good mother, and the dad reveals that he actually filmed her death for her, and that the reason that she had asked the main character to film her is because she wanted to make, like, she works in the TV industry, and she
Yeah,
wanted to make a documentary about how heroic her own recovery was.
yeah.
But of course,
And
she
she,
didn't recover. And then the son um, deleted everything that he had recorded that would make the mom not look
Look
like
bad.
the perfect mother. And the dad like even points out that like, oh, she wasn't as good to you as you portrayed in your movie.
Yeah.
So then he decides that his next movie is going to be a sequel to the first one with uh, with the new main character being Arie. Uh, but in his story, then Arie is a vampire who is what did they say? She's like finally coming to the end of her life after 1,000 years or something.
Something like that.
Yeah.
The interesting thing is that he uses his previous movie as a backdrop
Yes.
for the next movie, which is basically repeating the plot
Yes.
of the first movie and repeating the plot of everything that has happened up
In
until
real
this
life,
point.
it's a yeah. So it's
So
like
it's
kind of
meta inside meta.
yeah. It's a very meta film idea to be like, oh, well, the story of this one is that I made a movie and then no one liked it, so I'm doing it again, but with a new main character.
Yeah,
um, and here's the part that is the second twist that it turns out that
the plot that he thought
after
up was
yes was
actually
real
going to happen.
because Eri turns out to be dying, and then after she dies, uh, their only mutual friend tells him that she thought it was odd that he had really sanitized the Eri for his movie and made her seem a lot nicer than she really was.
Never filming
Um,
her with her glasses on, never filming her with her, what's it called?
her retainers for her teeth.
Retainers on.
Yeah,
Not filming her when she's having a
a
bad
temper
temper.
tantrum. Yeah, things like that. So I thought
And
like,
we as the readers never got to see that either,
yeah,
because
that's why it didn't
we
get a 10.
constantly get all of these edited moments, so it's
Yeah, and
really
it
hard
it
to
it
tell as a reader.
it's interesting to me because that kind of this reveal, then it's like it's saying that, oh, everything that we've read up to now was basically the guy's second movie.
Yes,
It was not his full experiences. Um, and
it's
uh,
blurring the lines between what's real
yeah,
and what's
between
just
canon
part
and yeah, and what's
of the
the
movie he's
story that
making.
he's making? Yeah,
Is it the
um,
story or is it the story within the
within this,
story?
yeah, exactly. It's because that also comes to like the ways that everyone remembers things slightly differently, right? So
Yeah.
then he's trying to make this movie, and part of it is because he wants to remember the people they cared for in a positive light, even though they
Yeah,
weren't always.
you could say that.
Yeah. And after that, yeah, you wrote the maguchan speedrun. That is what it does.
Yeah, because after the after Eri dies and he makes his movie about where
Mhm.
she dies, um, it does a two page spread where he says, "Well, afterwards it didn't go as well for me as it
Mhm.
did in the end of the movie. I hold myself up. I went to college. I dropped out of college. I got a job. I got a family. I kept editing the
He never
movie
became,
because it still
yeah,
bothered me.
he never became a real director of other movies. He would just keep editing the movie about
The
Eri.
same
Yeah.
footage that he took over and over again. And then apparently he had a car crash where he
Yep.
was the
Where
only
his whole
survivor and his
family
whole
died.
family,
Yeah. His
everybody,
dad,
even the
his
dad.
wife, and his daughter were all together, and they all died except him.
So then he does the thing again where he's like, I'm gonna kill myself. And
Hmm.
then he has this encounter with Eri again,
He goes back to the abandoned building where he had been taken by Eri,
where they
and
always watch the movies together.
he meets her again. And she
And
says that she really is a vampire, but she revives after dying.
That's a very specific gimmick.
It is, and that she
She
likes
even
his
explains
movie.
it. She even explains it in a way that every 200 years she dies because taking so many information makes your head explode. Almost literally, it fries your brain. But since she's a vampire, it doesn't matter if her brain explodes because
She comes
as
back.
long as her heart is intact, she can come back to life. And every time it happens, it wipes her memory and she leaves
And she
letters to
forgets. Yeah.
herself
And
that
now
explain.
she likes the main character's movie because
Yeah,
she can
because
watch
it's
it and learn
one
about
whole
the kind of
biography.
person. Yeah. And even though it's not true to what she was, he
She
doesn't say that to her
appreciates it.
though. Yeah, she likes it.
This shot right here is very interesting because it plays
Yeah.
with
It
the
has the main character in current day with the arie in the movie behind him, and then the arie in the
and
current day with him from the movie behind them.
it plays with us knowing the way they always sat on the couch. And usually you'd put both of them in, like you'd
In the
make a
same
big
frame.
spread of it.
Yeah.
But the author chose to make it a split page. And I don't know what the meaning is, but I think that's interesting.
Yeah, I think so too. And she really likes it. And
So
says, uh-huh.
she keeps watching the movie. She continues with her habit of not wanting anybody to talk during a movie. And since he has already closed this chapter inside his heart, apparently, he just leaves instead of hanging out and being like, "Wow,
Yeah.
Arie,
And then he never sees her again.
my one true friend. I'm so glad you're back," or something like that. That doesn't happen.
That would be the expected thing.
You'd think that happens, but instead he
Yeah,
just
he
leaves.
just leaves.
And
then
it does the best
building
what's it called when something from somewhere before it comes back.
A callback.
The best callback ever.
Yeah.
Because then he realizes what was missing from all the time when he was trying to edit the movie again and again and again. Where she says, "Well, it's missing a bit of fantasy," which his dad pointed out that every time he's making something, he wants it to be a little bit fantastical.
Yeah.
And then he
the dad
realized the
mentions
one
even
thing.
as a little kid, his drawings would have add a little bit of fantasy to real life events
And explosions. And that's what he does. Yeah. He walks away like a badass from the abandoned building and it explodes. Which
is also a meta thing, because then you're like,
yeah,
oh, so very likely then his it's not actually saying that Arie is really a vampire and he met her again. It's that this was his final way to finish the story. Because also, if you'll notice, then when he meets Arie again, she's not wearing glasses.
Indeed.
So it's his movie version of Arie rather than the real Arie.
So basically, everything might have been just a movie.
Everything was a movie, yeah.
But it's impossible to tell because
I like that
when
kind
you think
of
about it,
slight ambiguity in a story.
How would he have filmed Arie when she's like, maybe this? If we assume that everything has been a movie and nothing was real, then we might assume that they filmed the scene where Arie is on the sofa.
And that's why it doesn't have them in the same shot.
Yes.
Because he went back to film himself decades later.
Yes, possibly. But that's such a who would do that?
This guy. But yeah, it's a sort of thing where it's like it's a sad story, but then there's also like really funny parts in it, and then there's things that it makes you think as well.
It's also very realistic because all of these camera shots and the dialogues and the way he's filming stuff. Like,
Hmm.
that's so evocative of movies you might have seen
Yeah,
already.
and one thing that I thought about it is that the way that it has the very consistent framing most of the time, where it's
Yeah.
just these very
It's
wide panels.
almost every
It's
page is just 4 panels in
yeah,
widescreen.
and then you can imagine like when it's not those, then it seems almost like it's a shot that would be panning in a movie
Yeah.
or animation. It's like
Yeah.
when I was reading this, I was like, it's kind of weird to get distracted with meta stuff, but maybe it's
Yeah.
appropriate in here. But like throughout reading it, I was thinking, this would be like a really good actual movie.
Yeah.
Because it basically like everything is just it's storyboarded out,
Yeah.
so just yeah, some animation studio should should just turn this into a real movie. It'd be really good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Why not?
yeah,
Nothing's
do it.
stopping them. It's already
Um,
perfectly planned out.
because I'm trying to think. There are a lot of movies already existing that are about people who like to make movies because all these writers get told, "Oh, write what you know." So then these indie directors are like, "I'm gonna write a movie about making movies because that's what I do." Um, and I think most of them are kind of garbage
Yeah.
because they don't think it through well enough. For instance, there's a J.J. Abrams movie called Super 8,
Oh,
and
yeah, I know that one.
it starts out being about making movies, and then it just becomes like alien
Super.
monster schlock.
Oh,
And
wait, is that the one with aliens or is that the one
yeah,
with
it's the one with aliens,
superpowers?
aliens. Yeah, I'm trying to think what else is there that is actually really good. That's like this level of meta-ness because I've told you before about how much I hate the storyline in Super Hot. That game
Um,
tries to be meta
d-
on the level of
you
this.
did tell me, and you
Oh,
might
you
have
forgot
already
it?
told me what. Yeah, I
Okay,
forgot.
so in that game, it's a like arena shooter
Yeah, I
where
know
you
that.
can yeah,
What's the
and the
story? What's the meta?
so the meta story of it that I hated is that you'll get these messages on screen to like go to a place like after some levels, and you'll go to those places and you'll find a uh, like an in-game character sitting at a computer playing the game that
Super
you're
hot.
playing. Yeah.
Uh,
And then it'll tell you to kill that character. And once you kill that character, then
the game
you
stops.
no, the game will spawn you into the next level, and it'll
Uh-huh.
do weird stuff like there's one part where um, the game will I forget how they explain it, but like it breaks it down and then it becomes a 2D game, and you for a while you can't actually play the regular 3D game. You play like a shitty top-down 2D version of it. And
Huh.
I'm like, it's doing things, it's trying, but I don't like it.
Yeah,
Because
that
there's a
sounds
lot of
bad.
times, yeah, because those sections they all take control. They took so much control away from you, and I feel like that's part of their intention is that they're like, oh, it's gonna be so deep for a game where, the main gameplay you have such detailed control over everything that happens, and how about for the story parts? You have no control over what happens. Oh, people are gonna
Ah,
have their minds blown. And then I was just like, this is annoying. I don't want to play it
I am
anymore.
14 and this is deep.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So I
Incidentally,
was
some people
uh-huh.
replied that to Sayonara Eri.
Really? Really?
Yeah.
Okay, because I was
Yeah.
gonna say like there's stuff like that where it tries to be meta and deep, and then I hate it. But then this is the case where it's like it's very meta, and I'm like, oh, I love it. So
The
there's
people who
some
say that just don't realize how genius it is.
there's some line where this is like on the line for me, but I guess for some other readers might be crossing it.
Uh-huh.
'Cause, yeah,
That's the one complaint you
yeah.
have. Which
No,
one?
no. My one complaint is that they talk about you never see Arie with glasses, and then you still don't
Ah,
at the end.
that's so specific to you.
Yeah, can't you tell?
I didn't even think of that.
That's the only one complaint I have because
You can,
for the meta-ness, I'm like this is the exact level of meta that I like, where it's done in a way that's it's slightly ambiguous, so it's not hitting your head over. It's not
yeah.
hitting you over the head with it, um, and then it doesn't. Because I feel like a lot of times when stories try to do something meta, they'll have it in a way. I'm trying to articulate it. It feels a lot of times like the meta aspect of a story is going against what the straightforward part of the story is doing. But then this doesn't do it. This one, it's like, oh, the fact that this
I think
happens in
that's
the end
I think
actually
that's probably
plays
because
in perfectly with what we were told before,
it's
right?
probably because the meta that you dislike
Mm-hmm.
is the meta that goes out of the movie and talks about things that or the manga. So out about things that are outside of the piece of media that you are
Mm-hmm.
trying to enjoy. But
Yeah.
this one is going inside. It
It's
has
like
a
Inception.
story within the story, and it's going
Oh,
inside the thing.
Inception. That's another thing that's actually kind of about creating art
Is
because
it?
there. Have you seen it?
No.
Okay, well, I won't spoil it for
I,
you then.
I bought the Blu-ray.
Okay,
Uh,
well, go watch it because that's also a story that
is
is.
it doing it well?
I thought so. I really liked it. Where it'll have characters basically telling you like, oh, well, this or that is just made up. And then at the end, it comes back with like, well, with something that kind of
Actually,
makes you think like how much of it is just made up for this. Because the title Inception,
mm,
it's that. So this is the premise. I don't think it's a spoiler, but the main characters, their job is that they can
going
go
into
into
other
people's
people's dreams,
dreams and they can either
plant
take
memory.
information from your mind, so they've worked as like spies to do that,
Yeah.
or they can give you ideas in your dreams. So then that part's kind of like creating art.
Ah, I see. I think something that this manga is also pointing out is that he's calling directly back to stuff like The Sixth Sense, and
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if the other two movies he's mentioning
Mm-hmm.
are real or not because I've never heard of them and I didn't feel like
When
looking
did
them
you
up.
say that?
Just
Yeah.
the Brown
Permanent
Bunny
Nobara
and
and the Brown
Permanent
Bunny.
Nobara.
Yeah, let's see if
I didn't want
Araki
to look.
spoils those
I
in
didn't want to
JoJo
look
one.
those up
Mm-hmm.
because then my Google search history would
Google
be
would
like
think you'd like that sort of
embarrassing.
thing.
Like it would overlap with like 5 million people who also read it and tried to look
Mm-hmm.
it up, and it,
Yeah.
it would feel bad for me to know that I'm one of the people who had to look it up.
You'd rather just be ignorant.
Yeah. Also, it's funny that he's spoiling the plot twist of the Sixth Sense as
And
uh,
it's
another
like a Shonen
another
Jump
Shonen Jump.
tradition by now,
Yes,
spoiling the Sixth Sense.
I like that. I like to think about that as a Shonen Jump
The editor is
tradition.
like, "How are we going to do it this year?" Yeah.
um, yeah, but like if you could imagine that Eri is also wearing glasses,
Hmm.
even though she's already extremely attractive,
Hmm.
um, wouldn't you also give it like at least 99
Yeah.
points?
Yeah. Of
Maybe.
course. Yeah. Oh, that reminded me another thing that I really liked is when they're watching movies in one of the early times,
Yeah,
and he's like kind of bored with it, and she says the line, "You should be glad to be able to spend all day with a babe like me."
yeah.
It's like, I like characters who are kind of smug like that. And they kept it
I did.
in, showing he likes it too, even though their friend is like, oh, you removed. you cut out every part where she's being mean.
That wasn't so mean. That's
No, it wasn't.
just
It's
just a
fun.
fact.
Yeah.
Also, in now that you go back to this montage, it's so elaborate looking at both of their expressions while they watch the movies, because in one of them he's doing like the what the fuck is this, and since you can tell
seen
she's
it
already moved.
before.
Yeah, and
So she's like smiling, like, oh yeah, what are you gonna think about this?
Yeah, all of these reactions are so good.
Yeah. It's
And I didn't include it, but in one of them she's looking at him to see his reaction of something.
Very realistic depiction of watching movies together.
You gotta pay so much attention to all of these details in this story. It's so good.
Yeah, lots of details. I feel like this is one of those stories that other artists should study.
Yes,
they should study it
this
deeply.
Should be in a history book.
This should be taught in all film schools, even though it's not a movie yet.
It's better than a movie.
It should be a movie. They should animate this.
By the way, since you said you wanted to reread Chainsaw Man, I wonder, maybe you should just wait until the anime hits. Okay. But also, since you already read Chainsaw Man and these two one-shots, maybe we need to read Fire Punch.
Oh, yeah. You're right. I never even thought about that.
That one's also apparently supposed to be really good, but
what's the title of the one that the main character draws in Look Back? Shark Kick. When can we read Shark Kick?
I wonder if maybe that's the... it's probably not.
No, it'll never appear. We'll just have to keep it in our imaginations.
But this author, Fujimoto, Tatsuki, he must have had another one-shot before
I wonder,
all of these, because that's how you apply.
One thing that I find interesting about looking through the work of an author is going back and seeing like how their work changes.
And all of the common features.
Yeah, what are the common features and what changed? Because I feel like there's some creators who come up with something that's really good, and then
they repeat it over and over again.
And that's all they got. But some people are like actually
Kubo-Tide, for instance.
Yeah, that's a big repetition within the same series over and over.
In Chainsaw Man, there was also there were several scenes where they watch movies and put emphasis on saying that watching movies is really important.
Yeah.
So you can
tell this author loves watching movies.
He loves watching movies.
He should co-write something with Kojima.
That would be such a good collaboration.
Such a good game. Hi, you just heard a clip from the Orekara podcast with Maxi Berger and me, Percival Fine. If you like our style, click here to subscribe for weekly reviews of the best and worst new manga chapters, gaming streams, and more.